Hello mọi người. Video hôm nay sẽ khác mọi khi vì hôm nay mình có phỏng vấn 3 người là Tina, Hilda và Nam về việc phân biệt chủng tộc ở Việt Nam. Và mặc dù thế giới đang ở năm 2021 rồi nhưng mình nghĩ đó vẫn là một cuộc trò chuyện mình cần phải có, đặc biệt là ở một đất nước thiếu sự đa dạng về chủng tộc như là Việt Nam. Mình mong là các bạn sẽ xem video này đến cuối vì mình thấy phỏng vấn này khá là sâu sắc. Và mình hy vọng là sẽ giúp các bạn học hỏi được điều gì đó mới hoặc có một cách nhìn mới về việc phân biệt chủng tộc. Đừng quên like và subscribe và mình sẽ sớm quay lại với video mới. Còn bây giờ hãy xem 3 khách mời thú vị của Bananoi là ai.
My name is Hilda. I've been living in Hanoi for just over 4 years. I'm working as a teacher, a DJ, and I also do some writing, like about music and marketing stuff. I chose to move to Vietnam for like a couple of different reasons. Firstly, I had a friend that was living here for a year. She'd spent that entire year trying to convince us to come down to like at least visit or even move here. So we like booked a flight to just visit. In the lead up to that, I had like just finished uni, was working like an office job, and it was good, but then it started to get like more and more intense, and I was really young. I was like 22, 23. Work was getting like really stressful. Like instead of like working 10 to 6, I was working like 9 to 9, or like, you know, just like really long days. So through the process of like my friend pretty much telling me weekly like how great Vietnam is and like the stress of the job, we just changed the flight to like a year-long like return flight instead of staying for 2 weeks. That year turned into 3, turned into 4.
I'm from South Africa and I've been living in Vietnam for close to 5 years now. Reason I moved, very similar to Hilda, but the only difference is I was already in Asia while that was happening. I moved to Thailand and I got immensely depressed because we were living in like a one-horse town. I didn't really realize what the disconnection was. I just thought it was just because I moved to another country, but a friend who was in the same course as me moved to Vietnam and kept telling me about Vietnam, and I was like, is that even on the map? Like, where is that? Like, what are you even talking about? Vietnam is a place for where movies are made for Hollywood. That's what it is. Like, stop lying. And she's like, no, it's a real place with real people. So I thought, okay, let's go see this real place with real people, whatever. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. I love it. I teach English. I have been doing so for 5 years, but now and again I've dabbled and dabbled in like a couple of creative projects. I've done a music video, which was freaking awesome. And yeah, I want to continue doing that if I have the opportunity. But the pandemic obviously has caused a real lag in these creative sections. So yeah.
My name is Nam.
By the way, is that your real name? Or is that like a Vietnamese name that you gave to yourself?
Now this Nam is a mixture of my original name and my Vietnamese name. My real name is Uzonades. I got Nam when I came to Vietnam. It's a whole lot other story. I've been living in Vietnam for the past 12 years. I'm originally from Nigeria. I'm a YouTuber. The first time I came to Vietnam was as a tourist, and I didn't like it the first time I came here. There was a language barrier, and the way I felt I was treated, and the way the people spoke to me, I didn't feel like I belonged here. So I didn't like it, and after a couple of weeks, I went back to my home country. Sometime later, I was invited back by a friend who informed me about a teaching opportunity that came up. So I came back to Vietnam and then I started teaching English. As I was doing that, started getting a lot of requests from people back home who wanted me to check out some business information in Vietnam that they wanted to invest in. Once I started getting all these requests and people started asking me to check about Vietnamese clothing, shoes, cosmetics, I established my company in 2013. 2019, I started making videos and I started off covering some Vietnamese songs that I found on the internet, and I felt like people liked it. I would cover it in my own way and publish on the YouTube just for my friends to see. But in March 2019, I wrote a script and I started this series called Welcome to Vietnam. And before you know it, people fell in love with the series, and that was how my YouTube channel blew up.
Chê thì cứ chê đi, càng đen thì tôi cứ đen, bởi vì lại trao phi nên tôi mới đẹp như vậy.
I'm super happy for you. I think it's great that you're kind of in both ways introducing the Vietnamese community to African people, but at the same time, you know, showing that there's this whole community of Black people within Vietnam, because I think a lot of locals are not aware. and there's still a lot of stigma, right? Just because of how you look and the color of your skin. Which makes me come to the other big question. How was your experience looking for a job here as a teacher? Whether it's the hiring process or just like the interaction with the parents or the students themselves.
So like I said, I had a friend that was living here for a year, and she told me before I even got here, she was like, Hilda, you're gonna, like, it's not gonna be as easy for you to find a job because they want a white face. Like, she told me this is an issue that you're gonna have. And she sort of just gave tips like, you're not gonna wanna apply for the public schools. You should maybe look at like the language centers or like the places where it's run by foreigners, because they're gonna be less likely to have like attached skin color to like as a requirement. I remember that one of the first interviews I went to, like, I didn't put my picture on the CV. I just sent it as it was. British teacher from the UK, blah, blah, blah. Put me into for the interview. She like opened the door, looked at me, she like was genuinely shocked, like, oh my God, you're black. I guess she wasn't expecting it. I've noticed that a lot in Vietnam, like they assume if you're from a Western country,
you're white.
Yeah. And if you're not white, you are not from that country. Once I did get a job, like I was fortunate to find the teaching job fairly quickly. Students would ask you, where are you from? I say I'm from the UK, and they immediately say, no, you're not. I am from the UK. I was born there, but yeah, my heritage is not British. But that was always like a weird thing that I had. Like I'd never been told, not even questioned, but like told so directly that no, this is not the place that you're from. So that was like really difficult to get used to in teaching. I did, however, have like quite a positive, or like there's one experience I can point to when it came to parents. So with the school that I worked for, they would do parent meetings. One of the parents, a mother of like a student that I really loved, like really got on well with. Her mother could speak really good English. And she said to me, when my daughter told me that her English teacher was black, I was really, really worried. But then she said, now that I've met you and I've heard like how your daughter talks about you and how much she enjoys the class, I'm really glad that you're teaching her. So like, although yes, you do get those weird comments from the students and from the parents, like there are some where if you prove yourself to be like a good teacher, or like to have an interest in the children and in like their learning and their education, you can change minds. It doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. And I was fortunate enough to have someone tell me that, and like to know that it doesn't have to be that much of an issue, or that there's people out there that are open-minded enough in Vietnam to like be open to you regardless of your skin color, or to at least appreciate you for what you're doing rather than just sticking to their preconceived notions that they have.
I'm glad that you brought up the part of the whole idea of proving yourself, because it's probably the reason I'm here. And that's just, this has to be said for me to be able to explain exactly what my experience has been. And that is, I've grown up in a racially divided country. South Africa is without fail one of like the most racist and xenophobic countries, right? In terms of our history and kind of the political issues that we go through. Even though white people in South Africa are a minority, they run and make up most of the money that comes into the country. So coming from a South African background, where someone like myself, in order to succeed or surpass my white counterparts, I had to be a better black. Having to overextend yourself or be an overachiever in order to even be recognized by your white or other counterparts. I have to have this accent, because I can drop my accent and have a normal South African accent if I want to, which I do when I speak to some of my South African friends or even my mother. But this accent gets me further in life. Deciding that I don't even feel as good in my own country, I need to see what the world out there has to offer. When coming to Asia, I was obviously well prepared by many people who had come before me, and by all the information that I had coming from a racial background, being aware what other people might feel or see about me. And then obviously taught in Thailand, which I will say, from my personal experience, I found that far more jarring than my experience in Vietnam. And like Hilda saying, like obviously having to get a company that is run by foreigners or white people, because I'm a better black, I'm the black that white people will approve of. So I didn't have a problem when it came to hiring. I landed a job absolutely like immediately. So now the only problem I think was maneuvering some of the Vietnamese assistants. They would hold me to a different pedestal than my white counterparts. So they would say like, you're not dressed appropriately. I'm like, I'm wearing literally the same thing someone else is wearing. But that's because my body is significantly bigger. So they would be like, oh, you shouldn't be wearing those pants, without trying to tell me that like, oh, we think you're fat, so that's why you shouldn't wear this. And a lot of it chalked it down more to an ignorance, a lack of knowing, rather than a racial issue towards me. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist within Vietnam towards black people. What I'm saying is that for me personally, I chalked a lot of the behavior down to, you clearly don't know. You clearly haven't dealt with us long enough, because you are, in a sense, living in a monolithic country where everyone is the same. So I can understand how someone like me can be quite shocking. So with that in mind, and also with my racial background in mind, I had to find a way to balance the two, which wasn't always easy.
I had a lot of friends who told me that they were outrightly rejected because of the color of their skin. Though I've not had the direct experience of that, but it's an ongoing thing, and so many schools, they tell you outrightly, if you're black, don't just apply.
Oh yeah, like those are all over Facebook. It's like Facebook, like, oh please, white people, they're like white people only. And I'm like,
or they say like the new one is what is it, native or European. And when I say it's like white or white,
It's not right for people to give you a job based on the color of your skin, or if you have a Western name, you should get a job based on your ability.
Regarding your YouTube channel, you have a lot of subscribers. Your videos sometimes get like 1 million views, I think, if I'm not mistaken, which is crazy. As a public person, you see more of the support, but at the same time, I assume that you get also, you become more of a target of the hate speech, right?
A lot. I'm in the middle of both words, trust me. As much love I got a lot of hate to equate that. So it was always coming from both ends. Even till this day, even the last video I published, if you check most of the comments, you still get hate comments. Oh, black people are the scammers, they are drug dealers. I even had to do a video one time about the hate messages or the hate comments that I've received on my channel.
Nam xin bạn, các bạn viết đàng hoàng giùm tôi được không? Nếu bạn muốn để bình luận, hãy cố gắng viết đàng hoàng cho người ta đọc được. Nếu các bạn viết tiếng Việt mà không dấu, làm sao mà hiểu được đây?
It's something that I've learned how to deal with it. I don't let it get to me as much as I would have a couple of years ago. If they are saying things back to me, I'll just refer to them as having some problems in their life that they need to deal with. I start feeling sorry for them because I know that something inside of them it's wrong. So I'm so sorry that you are going through a mood right now, but I can understand, and I'm with you. I understand you. Just take it easy. You'll be fine. Over the years, I've been very lucky in the sense that my channel grew exponentially. I've got to be honest with you. The amount of love that I've received from the Vietnamese community is insane. So many people walk up to me and send me gifts. So many people invite, like during Tet holidays, I go to like 4, 5, 10 families.
Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that you're completely fluent in Vietnamese and that there's no linguistic barrier?
I guess a lot of that have to do with my fluency in Vietnamese as well, because I don't think most of them can relate to me completely if I was not speaking the language. So a lot of it has to do with my fluency in Vietnamese. So I think that helps a lot.
What about you, Hilda? Did you experience a lot of racism, in your everyday life?
And like the looks and the stares, and like you can feel that people are talking about you. Of course, you don't know, and you pick up on those words. Like, if you hear the word Zaden, like, okay, that's about me. People are looking and pointing. I was getting a lot of that. I would say like the first 2 years, it was really hard especially coming from London, where it's so multicultural. Like, you never, unless you went to like the whitest of white places in London, you would never be really pointed out for being non-white. So in Vietnam, it was really hard those first couple of years, like just feeling the eyes or just knowing that people are looking at me and staring at me because I'm an anomaly. And then I don't know if it's either that I became used to it or I became immune to it, or there's just a lot more black people in Hanoi than there was when I first got here. Not sure what it is, but that feeling of like, just be like dreading going out, like, oh my God, I've got to like go to the shop and like deal with all these people looking at me and staring at me and maybe talking about me, like that's gone. So I couldn't say honestly if I think I still experience like racism or like curiosity from the local community. It's most of the time it's more about people being inquisitive, people coming over and like rubbing your skin, see if it rubs off. It's weird, it's hella weird, but this come from a curious place, like I do see that most of the time, like it can be uncomfortable, but I'd like to think that like the majority of the time, like 70% of the time, like it's just curiosity rather than real hatred for black people.
Generally, like Hilda's saying, I don't know where your hands have been. You know how long it takes to do hair? I'm sitting there for 10 hours and then someone comes in and it's just like, here, let me just grab on your hair because I'm so curious. Black women have said for years, don't touch my hair. And it's only because like the way our hair is structured, you touch it, you've messed it up for the whole day. I can understand that braids are a weird thing for you and you would like to feel that curiosity, which is like, okay, you know. But other than that, for all the Vietnamese people watching, please don't touch my hair. Just from the whole Black community, we would like you to know, please don't. Worked so hard to get it to stay in place. So ask first and ask first. In terms of my experience socially, a lot of it has to do with being Black, of course, but I think a lot of it on top of that is that I'm not just Black, I'm Black and big. And I'm from a country where I'm pretty normal sized. So as a curvier, heavier woman coming into Vietnam with like thick bum or like thick thighs, I got thick legs. For them, it's like, what? Like, what is this? You know, was this stressful? And then on top of that, it's very confusing to look at my whole body because I'm so small at the top and then big at the bottom that is also a body type that's not common here in Vietnam. So having to have my skin and then my body, and it's like, this is too much. In terms of situations where I've had like people being too curious. I was living in Time City and I was walking around the mall looking for stuff as I usually would. Like, and I've lived there long enough that I would think that people would have gotten used to me, the one Black person in Time City. I had a terrible incident because my hair was huge. I had this very puffy, big, like these huge extensions. And so it caused like commotion because I eventually got stuck on one of the little hangers and in shops where they like display all the stuff because people kept trying to like really come after me and take pictures and like laugh and you know, do all of these things. I went into a panic. My hair was stuck and I was like trying to move and I was just trying to get everyone to like leave me alone. But then that just caused more of a frenzy with more people coming in, just bombarding me. And even if they've asked for a picture, forcibly still take a picture, even though you've said no. I'm scared. I'm alone. If you were an alone Vietnamese woman and people did that to you, would you be okay with that? I've heard a lot of the times that when I mention Vietnamese people are taking pictures of me, I get this a lot and it pisses me off. White people will be like, they do that to me too. Now, hold up. I'm not saying they don't. What I am saying is when they do it, it's for different reasons. It is one of those frustrating things because when they do it for white people, it's admiration. It's the ultimate. It's the white, the great. But when they do it for Black people, it's mockery. It's a joke. So you've got to understand the nuances of that. And I got a lot of that a lot of the times. And for some reason, Black people, when we're Black, we represent every Black person. I can't just be Black. I can't just be me. I need to represent the whole of Africa. So I've got all of this weight on my back of like, if someone takes a really bad picture of me or of a picture of me looking like a fool and can joke about it, that is a representation of all my people. That is like what you will think of every single Black person you meet because you're never going to change that perspective. So sometimes I can't even get angry because I'm going to be the angry Black woman. If I walk into a place and I'm like, I am not feeling well, especially hospitals, just being like, okay, cool, sit down. But if like a white person or Vietnamese came in and we're throwing the same tantrum or whatever, they get attention. I think the same stereotypes that work around like Black women and Black people still are applicable here in Vietnam. One of them is that Black women don't feel pain. We don't need medical attention. That's a problem throughout the world, you know. So I've felt that has been an issue for me too. So, but it's not an experience of the entirety of Vietnam.
I want to go back to what you said, Tina, about, you know, the privilege of some of the foreigners here who actually minimize your experience by comparing it to theirs, which leads me to the question, what is the kind of racism that you have encountered within the expat community here in Vietnam, if any?
If any?
Some stories.
Where do we start? Where do you want me to start? What, in 1800s? Should we go back there? So, honestly, majority of the racism has been from foreigners. Like, I kid you not. Majority of the racist situations I've dealt with in Vietnam, have been from foreigners. How
More than the
mind-blowing.
locals themselves.
Oh, the locals are child's play. The locals are actually just like, they almost seem cute in the face of everything else. In our little Teho, it just constantly feels like, that's why I don't live there as well, that my race is more of a spectacle than anywhere else in Vietnam. It's South Africans, they make up a lot of the expats that live here. And they started doing so 3 years ago. The accessibility of being able to come here and how cheap it is. You know, with Vietnamese people, it's a curiosity. Then eventually, when you've been there long enough, they're over it. They're like, cool, give me my money and go. But from white people personally who come from my country, who are, I feel, come here to just continue what they can no longer do in South Africa. That's not to say every single white South African, because I never want to paint every single person as the same. But a lot of the times I've been called racial slurs. I've been, from people who should know better. I've been told, you know, I've been denied promotions in foreign companies, them blaming Vietnamese people and saying Vietnamese people don't want you to be higher. When I find out from Vietnamese people, they're like, what? Like, we've been asking why no one promoted you. Every single time I go out, I'll get to a bar or a beer hoy or whatever, and the first thing is some white person wants to remove their white guilt, so they want to come to me and tell me all about, like, oh, you know, like, oh, you remind me of, like, my black friend at home. And, oh my gosh, like, I'm such an activist. Don't you find it so annoying that, like, you know, white people are still so racist? I hate my people. I really hate my people. Like, they just treat you so badly. And, like, I don't know. And I'm like, girl, what's the difference between you and the racist person? Like, you're still making this about my race. Hi, how are you? What do you do? Tell me something about you. If you are not going to have that conversation with a white person, then don't have it with me. Treat me the same way. Treat me like a human being.
I feel like the stories that I have heard have come from other friends of colour that have been hanging out in South African groups. I haven't seen it with like the British people here, even like the other European people here haven't really experienced it, but I feel like the stories I do hear do come from the white South African community. But yeah, personally, I can't pinpoint any like downright racist thing that I've seen from friends or from people around me.
What Tina is saying is absolutely correct, because if you are putting it in the context of Vietnamese people being racist, it's not even comparable to what we experience in the hands of the Western counterparts. Let me give you for an instance here. I'm an Arsenal fan, and we have like a group of friends who are also Arsenal fans, and I'm the only black guy in a group of 14 friends. There is this one time we were in a bar in District 1 in Saigon here. We were watching an Arsenal game, and we were just having fun, having our beer and stuff, and this guy walks in. So he's from Texas. He just came straight to me and asked me, have you been to England? Why are you supporting an England team? What? And in our group of friends, there are people from Canada, there are people from Australia, there are people from America, there are people from different countries. But he picked me to come and confront me. He didn't come to anybody. That shows who you are. It's nothing else. It's just blatant racism. If you know what you're not going to say to a white person, why even bring the discussion up with me? I don't need to have a conversation with you based on the color of my skin or my race or my nationality. Just like people will see, oh, he's a Nigerian. Oh, automatically he's one of the fraudsters. He's one of the drug dealers. He's one of the scammers. Does it mean that 200 million people in Nigeria, all of them are lawbreakers? So why don't we talk like normal human beings, irrespective of nationality, irrespective of race, irrespective of religion or sexual orientation? Why can't we have a normal conversation without bringing any of those things into it? And don't tell me you don't see color. If you see me, see me. If you're telling me you're not seeing color, trust me, you're seeing color.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to buy
think
into
that's
that.
an important point. It's such an important point. Anya, if anyone, like black people have said it a million times, and maybe we need to repeat it because we are talking to Vietnamese people, do not ever say you don't see color, because that is you saying you do not acknowledge that people are different. You not seeing color is the problem. And it has to be said, though, because we are of very different nationalities, we do need to bring this up. There is also country black privilege.
Did you say black privilege?
Yes, there's
That's a black privilege.
country-based black privilege.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. Being African is far worse. So
Sure.
when Hilda might never have actually dealt with it, and this is not in any way to take away from her experiences as a Black woman, it doesn't remove any of the things that she has ever experienced, but it's to say that because of her passport and because of the country that she comes from and her accent.
Exactly.
She's far more prone to be respected and treated a little bit better and doesn't have to
Little
prove
bit better.
herself as much as maybe
He's one of the better blacks.
the two
better
of
blacks.
us, the better Black, right? So the thing is, like now I'm saying now, he dealt with an issue with a British guy, which most likely wouldn't happen to Hilda, because the minute she speaks, someone's like, oh, where are you from in England?
I do also completely agree with what you were saying, the privilege that exists when you're a Black person from a native place. Because I even said I don't know why I can't pin down like a racist event or situation that happened from foreigners. And it made me think maybe it is that becoming aware of that difference. I do know there is that difference of Black Africans are going to be treated differently to Black British people. It does make me think maybe I should the shit that if anything that I'm going through, maybe I should put that to one side, because maybe I do have it slightly better. It's that battle about, should I still speak out about my experience, or should I put my experience aside because it could be a lot worse.
My mom has a quote. It's got levels. It's hard to be a woman. It's hard to be a Black woman. It's even harder to be a woman who's Tonga and Black. Because that's my tribe, right? So she keeps saying that to me she would say that every single day, so that I remember what my place is in the world and that I have to work outside of that, right? So even as a person who feels terrible and has the worst of worst situations where Black women are the most downtrodden, African Black women are the most downtrodden, it doesn't mean that you as a British Black woman have less of a point because you're saying something. It doesn't at all.
If you could go back in time and give yourself advice, before moving to Vietnam, what would it be?
I feel like I diluted myself a lot. I dialed back my Blackness a lot when I first got to Vietnam. I'd say don't dilute yourself. Allow yourself to be your authentic you. I think I did not do that my first couple of years here because I was so aware of how different I was. I'd say don't let the environment you're in make you dilute yourself to the point where you are a shadow of yourself. You're not that same Hilda that you were when you were back in the UK or when you first arrived.
Once you're Black, they just see you straight and say, oh, you're African. Even when you're not African, I've had a lot of my friends who are Americans, who are British, who get asked the same question, you said they're British. They say, no, you're African. They assume every Black person is African, or you are one of those people who are in the newspapers a couple of days ago because you committed a crime. So you meet a Black person, instead of him to admit that he's from this country, but because he's scared and worried that you might judge him, he started to claim it he's British or he's American or he's Australian when he's not. I never did that because I've always been very comfortable in my own skin. So I've always been very confident of who I am and my identity right from get-go. But a lot of people who might not have the same pride or the same courage as I had, they find it very difficult for them to identify for who they were or who they are. So if there's something that I'm telling any Black person who's coming to Vietnam, be true to yourself. Be who you are. If somebody doesn't like you, let it be. People who love you will show up.
This does not speak just to being in Vietnam. It speaks to being Black in general, whether that be on social media, in the workplace, wherever you are, You have to be a white version of a Black person so that white people can be comfortable. I will say, for what both Hilda and Nam said, in a general, I don't think we should have to dim down our Blackness as a result of trying to make other people comfortable. Because that's usually why we have to do it. We socially have to make sure that we're always appropriate for white people because we stress them out. We stress them out. So we gotta keep, we gotta keep calm. I still laugh loud and I still dance every minute that I get. So yeah, it's in the past year or two, that's been something I was doing, and I wish I could have told my first self who got to Vietnam that it's okay to be me.
All right, guys. Thank you so much again, and hopefully see you after lockdown.
Thank you for the chat. Bye. Thank you,
Ciao.
Anya.
Bye.